So what is the fifth attitude?
Yes, the attitude that I forgot earlier is that if someone wants my product or my service a little bit, they're going to want it even more if they have to work for it.
Okay, now you've got me thrown for a loop. Explain that.
Well, it comes from this is a term that I learned when I first started coaching and speaking, that if you tell somebody something, they tend to doubt it. But if they tell you, then it's true. Mm-hmm. Now that comes into the same position in sales. If I'm having to convince you to purchase my product or service, there's the possibility of buyer's remorse, there's the possibility of questions, there's a possibility of all these things. Mm-hmm. But if I come from the perspective of going, okay, I have certainty in my product, and again, coming back from belief system number one, doing business with me being the best decision you can make, I've elicited from you what your needs, your wants, your buying emotions are, and I get you to tell me and you to actually get involved in the process of purchasing that product or service. Now you are taking ownership for it. So the idea being that if someone wants it a little bit and then they actually put in the energy to it, they're going to want it a lot more based on the fact that they've invested that time, they've invested that energy, and they've really convinced themselves through that process.
So why do you add if they want it a little bit? Explain that phrase.
Most people, when they're coming into a purchasing situation, they've already got their hesitancy up. Again, this is more about my attitude and my belief system in this situation. Mm-hmm. It's the place that I'm coming from in my communication. So I'm going, already, if they've sat down, I know they want it a little. Now it's my job to get them to realize how it's really going to fully serve their needs.
Okay.
So it's more, again, about framing my belief system, not so much about putting them in a position.
So your techniques for doing this, for getting this buy-in, would be what?
Again, that's a whole other subject that we can go into of eliciting what their needs, their wants, their should-haves are, and then finding out what their core buying emotions are. You get them to tell you why that product's important to them. Mm-hmm. You let them know, or you let them tell you what's most important about it, how it's going to make their life easier, how having this is going to fulfill needs that they have. It's really, again, 80-20 rule, but you asking questions and letting them tell you what the answers are for it.
That's great, and that makes a lot of sense now.
Like I said, they can be confusing when they're first delivered to people because, again, it's the attitudes that you're operating from, not trying to hold those attitudes over somebody else, just mm-hmm. the operating system that you're going to run on.
Right. Now, the sixth attitude is what?
The sixth attitude, actually, we had already touched on, which was there's no failures, only outcomes. I'd actually inserted that one earlier. We had the doing business with me is the best decision a person can make. Mm-hmm. I never get rejected. I only find out if a person understands that they need my product or service. Never attach too much meaning to being accepted or rejected. I'm never truly certain of what my customers' wants are, so I always go for it congruently and powerfully. The one that we just talked about, which was if my client wants my product or service a little bit, they will want it even more if they have to work for it. And then the sixth one is there are no failures. I always achieve an outcome.
Okay, so if I, listening to you as a business owner, want to incorporate these attitudes into my life, into my activities, mm-hmm. into my sales process, marketing, what strategies would you suggest for my doing that?
Well, the first thing that I would suggest is realize that the belief systems that you operate on right now are things that you've been rehearsing and saying to yourself for years. Mm-hmm. Now, most people are running on belief systems that they don't even realize they've installed because they just keep saying it to themselves over and over again. I can't do this, I can't do that, I have to operate this way, the other thing. It's really becoming conscious and focusing on these things and the intentions behind them of every day I want to step up and say, doing business with me is the best decision that a client can make. But not just say it, really get into why that's true for you. And it's about reconditioning what you've been rehearsing and saying to yourself unconsciously. So it takes a bit of focus, practice, and commitment to adopt these power attitudes. But I also guarantee you that if you adopt them, and they don't have to be verbatim to mine. These are the ones that I teach people, and I use the verbiage to kind of shake people up a little bit mm-hmm. because they go, well, how dare you say something like that? It's because I want to shake and kind of crack up your normal thought process and get you to open yourself to the possibility mm-hmm. of what the intention behind it is. So how can people do it? It's about writing them down, wording them to where it's going to have the most impact for you, and then just start rehearsing it every day and looking at how you can adopt it in every situation.
I would probably reorganize them and create an acronym that's easy to remember.
That would be also a great
Or put
possibility.
lists next to the cash register or in my notebook if I'm a service provider.
Yes.
Those things, because it's very difficult, since you said the attitudes have been instilled for years. It's
Yes.
very, very difficult to recognize when you're even playing those tapes.
It's very, very true. And that's why, for me personally, I make sure to set aside time in the morning and in the evening to focus on these types of things. You know, it's really about taking responsibility for understanding where my thought process is. In the morning, setting myself up by, whether it's through the acronyms, having the list, whether it's through doing an affirmation approach to things. And then at the end of the day, having that same list and reviewing and say, okay, where did I apply these and where could I have applied them better? And you begin to develop that as a habit. You know, there's studies that say if you do something for 21 days, it actually becomes a habit. So if you can make yourself focus on doing these things for that period of time, it will become a natural process for you, and you will kind of override
and
that
actually,
previous.
I know you have tools to help people do this on one of your websites.
Yes, I do.
And
Yes,
can
I
they
do.
get to it from your main site, Willard Barth?
Yes, they would actually get redirected around a little bit to get there, but what I'll do is just specifically for the people, the viewers here, the tool is called the Desktop Life Coach, and I will make sure that there's a link right on the front page for people to be able to find
That would be great.
Excellent.
So how can they contact you otherwise if they had more questions or would like to talk to you about these concepts?
They could visit my website and learn to contact me through there. It's www.willardbarth.com. They can email me directly at willard@willardbarth.com. And also my phone number is area code 570-748-5845. And I'll be happy to speak to anybody and answer any questions I can.
Great. Thank you for joining us again today, and best wishes for your success.
Thank you. My pleasure. Yours also.
Thank
Always
you.
a pleasure.
And best wishes for your success as well. Thank you for joining us. And watch for the last slide of the show for information about ICA courses. Thank you.